Joining me now is Democratic Senator from New Mexico, Martin Heinrich. As we've been saying, the president has a big climate speech later this hour. So, Senator, what are you expecting? What are you hoping for?
Well, I'm hoping that today's announcement is just the beginning of a long rollout of executive actions. This is an opportunity for the president to really engage his administration across the board to take every action they can. It's not a substitute for what we should be doing here in the Congress, but I think given the developments of the last week, he is doing the right thing, and I hope he ramps it up over time.
All right, so I just had a conversation with David Wallace Wells. New York Times wrote The Uninhabitable Earth. I'm sure you heard some of it. Even if Biden does declare a national emergency and take steps to combat climate change, he said it's really just rhetorical. It's signaling that this is a problem, that it's not going to do much to actually solve the problem that we are facing. What do you think of that?
I disagree. I think there are a whole suite of tools that the president can use, and every one of those signals leadership to the populace and to the world. So they can be leasing more offshore wind. They can be better regulating and eliminating things like methane that are really superheating and in the short term. So taking those actions builds momentum, and I think it's incredibly important for the president to do that and signal to the world that we should all be doing that.
So I don't think that's in conflict with what he was saying. He said it was more of a signal that there is an emergency. So you think if it starts now, then that it can build momentum. We're on a really tight deadline, though. We're on a really tight deadline to fight the increase in degrees around the world and the impact of that, what we're seeing. Aren't you worried that we're not moving fast enough, that our normalization factor is just too strong and that we're going to, I don't know.
But Katie, doing nothing makes that much worse. Yeah. Action and leadership is always better than apathy. And my concern now is that there are so many young people who are going to give up on these things. I think we need to build on that momentum. I think we need to show leadership at the state and local level where they have the majorities to really do the things that we know how to do. And the thing that I understand as an engineer, when you break down complex problems into smaller problems and figure out how to solve those, you can solve the global problem. And we know how to clean up our emissions. We know how to transition to a clean electric future and away from all these fossil commodities. And it's not unrelated to the inflation that we're seeing in the country. 41% of the inflation that is hurting consumers everywhere comes from the increase in commodities like gasoline. So we have the solutions. What we lack is the political will and the majority to be able to do those things. And lacking that, I think the president should lean in as far as he can.
So he should declare a national emergency. And I ask that because when you look at the New York Times most recent poll on climate and who votes on the issue, just 1% of Americans, 1% think climate change is the most important problem facing the country.
Well, I think one of the things we're seeing right now is those inflationary pressures just hurting people across the political spectrum. But I will tell you, when I talk to young people in my state, I can't imagine that figure is accurate because the issue that they come back to again and again and again is climate.
Young people value it in a slightly higher number, but still not enough. 3%.
Yeah,
still not enough to change things.
I saw that.
So I just wonder the packaging.
It just doesn't track with my experience.
I wonder, is there a change in the way that the Democrats can package, or lawmakers that care can package the fight against climate change, make it more of a jobs issue as opposed to a big Earth issue?
Well, I think that's a great opportunity, and I've seen it drive jobs in my state. We are doing more and more large-scale wind projects with really good careers associated with those. And once again, we have the solutions to do this. Electrifying our economy is an enormous jobs opportunity, but it also really insulates people from these crazy commodity price swings that we see in oil and gasoline and natural gas.